Most mothers do not collapse in ways everyone around them can recognize. They keep moving while something inside them quietly runs out of space. They answer questions, refill bottles, check apps, and remember what nobody else remembered. Then one small sound lands wrong and suddenly even kindness feels expensive. That is the emotional load mothers carry every day without much language. It is not only housework, childcare, or logistics, though those take enough. It is the inner holding that keeps the family emotionally stitched together. The remembering, the softening, the anticipating, the mood reading, the absorbing, the recovery afterward. Many mothers think the problem is patience, but that is rarely precise enough. Often the deeper problem is margin because patience struggles when margin disappears. You can love your family fiercely and still feel ambushed by ordinary needs. You can feel grateful and still crave minutes without anyone touching your mind. That does not make you selfish, cold, or secretly bad at motherhood. It means too much is landing on one nervous system without recovery time. Most emotional load hides inside moments that look normal from the outside. A child asks for help while you're tracking dinner, laundry, morning, and messages. A school email opens another decision before breakfast has even fully finished. A work notification lights up exactly when bedtime needs your emotional presence. Your teenager goes silent behind a phone and your chest tightens before you react. Someone asks what needs doing while you are carrying the entire map. That part matters more than it sounds, because knowing is part of the labor. Seeing, anticipating, organizing, assigning, checking, and remembering all always costs real energy. They are not invisible because they are small, but because mothers practice carrying them. When it works, nobody notices the math happening beneath the calm voice. Will she be okay? Did I forget something? Can this week hold? That constant internal tracking changes the texture of the whole long day. The body may be standing in the kitchen, but the mind is elsewhere. It is holding forms, moods, schedules, screens, groceries, deadlines, and possible disappointments. That is why many mothers feel tired before anything difficult even happens. Their energy drains through vigilance long before it shows up as exhaustion. Vigilance is expensive when nobody else feels responsible for noticing things first. This is why help does not always feel relieving as it should. If a mother must plan, delegate, remind, and monitor, she stays loaded. The task is moved to somebody else, but the management never leaves. That is why just ask me can sound irritating instead of comforting. Because the asking still assumes one person keeps holding the whole picture. What many mothers want is not praise, flowers, or speech about appreciation. They want shared awareness that removes some noticing from their already tired bodies. They want someone else to cash the fridge before dinner becomes pressure. They want someone else to remember library day, medication refills, and permission slips. Not because cannot handle it, but because always handling it changes you. It turns care into constant alertness that the body never fully exits. That expense builds quietly, which is why many mothers doubt their overload. It shows up in sharper tones than the moment seems to deserve. It shows up in a numbness during moments that should feel warm. It shows up when a mother says yes aloud and no inside. Then guilt often arrives before relief has even had time to land. That guilt is part of the load too, and it deserves naming. Mothers are expected to carry pressure gracefully and still feel endlessly available. Often the deeper problem is emotional demand without enough room to recover. That difference matters, because shame sends mothers inward in the punishing way. It turns overload into identity and temporary strain into a permanent self-judgment. I am failing. I am impatient, ruining this. I am not enough. Meanwhile, the truer sentence is often less cruel and much more accurate. I am overloaded, still functioning, and slowly losing access to my softness. That is one of the hardest parts of maternal burnout to explain. Lunches still appear, birthdays still happen, still get answered, and nobody panics. So everyone assumes she is coping better than she actually feels inside. Meanwhile, she may be running on tension, urgency, and pure muscle memory. She may sound flat because Feeling everything fully would cost too much. They worry it means they are becoming distant, damaged, or less loving. But numbness is often the mind trying to protect person from overload. When too much emotion passes through one body for too long, the system adapts. It lowers the volume so a person can keep meeting the day. That adaptation can be useful for a while, but it carries a cost. A child keeps talking, but the words arrive second later than usual. A family moment should feel sweet, yet it lands as one more demand. Not because they do not care, but because caring has become expensive. Love is there, but it is moving through noise, fatigue, and backlog. That is important to understand when children start reacting to the tension. The younger child gets louder, clingier, sillier, or more oppositional around tightness. The teenager sinks deeper into a screen because digital space feels simpler. Now the house starts responding to stress instead of responding to each other. That is why some family conflict is not about behavior at all. The screen fight is not only about the screen in that moment. The meltdown over the wrong cup is not only about the cup. Often those moments are collisions between fatigue, need, and invisible emotional backlog. When mothers see that clearly, something important starts to shift inside them. They start asking, what has been stacking inside me since this morning? That question is not an excuse for harmful behavior or checked-out parenting. It is a doorway into accuracy, and accuracy helps more than shame. If you call overload a character flaw, shame grows and insight weakens. If you name overload as overload, the next choice can become kinder. Maybe you need fewer open tabs inside your head by late afternoon. Maybe you need one predictable bedtime rhythm instead of negotiation every night. Maybe you need another adult to fully own something without being managed. Maybe you need dinner to be simple tonight and nothing more impressive. Those are not glamorous solutions, but they are honest and workable ones. Emotional load is reduced by specificity, not by vague reminders to self-care. They need fewer things depending on their constant internal daily emotional availability. They need relief before resentment becomes the emotional weather of the house. They need support before repair becomes tonight's second invisible, exhausting emotional job. A child does not need a mother who never becomes overwhelmed at all. A child needs a mother who notices overwhelm before it becomes the only voice. Sometimes that sounds simple, but simple can be powerful when spoken honestly. I am getting overloaded and I need 10 quiet minutes before continuing this. I answered sharply, and that was my stress talking, not your worth. I love you and I need a reset so I can return properly. Those sentences do not weaken motherhood, they make emotional reality more visible. They learn that stress can be noticed without becoming shame or chaos. They learn that closeness can survive hard moments and honest repair too. They learn that feelings need space, not perfect performance from everyone involved. They learned that repair does not require hating themselves before coming back. They learned that good mothers absorb everything quietly, then apologize for struggling. But quiet absorption is not the same thing as strength at all. Sometimes it is loneliness wearing a capable and efficient face every day. A mother can be central to family life and still feel emotionally unheld. She can be needed all day and still feel unseen by evening. Not because her family is, but because invisible labor disappears when performed well. This is also why guilt can show up during happy family moments. She planned the outing, packed the snacks, remembered wipes, and brought sunscreen. Then shame whispers that gratitude should have canceled this heaviness by now. But gratitude and depletion can live beside each other without contradiction easily. Wanting this life does not mean every part of it feels light. That tension is not hypocrisy, it is adulthood under relentless modern pressure. Modern motherhood asks for patience, structure, emotional presence, flexibility, and endless remembering. And social media makes the pressure feel intimate instead of abstract daily. They compare how patient everyone sounds and how regulated every family looks. So when they lose patience in their own kitchen, panic attaches quickly. Maybe my children will remember only my stress and not my tenderness. Maybe I am becoming someone I never wanted my family to need. Those fears are common, especially in exhausted seasons that feel endless lately. But children do not build their whole story from isolated hard moments. They build it from patterns of safety, repair, reliability, and returning love. They remember whether a parent kept coming back after stress passed through. Because one rough evening does not define the whole relationship forever either. One overwhelmed season does not prove love has somehow thinned beyond repair. Still, relief should not hide the deeper truth mothers already feel underneath. If motherhood feels heavier than it looks, there is usually a reason. Sometimes the reason is chronic sleep loss slowly distorting patience and perspective. Sometimes it is work colliding with parenting until neither role has breathing room. Sometimes it is a teenager going silent, leaving house full of worry. Sometimes it is too much noise, too little time, and no real pause. Sometimes it is years of being the emotional default until feelings blur. It is load that is invisible, relational, repetitive, and easy to underestimate. Once that is named, mothers can stop arguing with their own exhaustion. They can stop treating need for quiet like a betrayal of love. They can ask for concrete support instead of waiting for others to notice. Not help more but school pickup and lunch planning from now on. Not give me a break sometime but Saturday morning is fully yours. And when there is no partner available, the truth still deeply matters. The load is still real, even when redistribution feels painfully limited today. Naming it still softens shame and clarifies what must be simplified next. Maybe that means fewer extras during a season already stretched too thin. Maybe that means simpler meals, lower expectations, and less apologizing for survival. Maybe that means noticing that overstimulation, not failure, is driving the sharpness. Maybe that means admitting your family needs less input, not better speeches. That is not giving up on your family or lowering your love. It is protecting the conditions that make warmth and patience possible again. Emotional closeness does not grow best under constant internal family pressure either. It grows where somebody is allowed to breathe before giving again freely. So if you feel tired in ways that rest does not fix, notice. If you keep functioning while feeling emotionally frayed, notice that too gently. If you love your family and still fantasize about silence, notice that. These are not signs that you are failing at motherhood right now. They are signs your internal load has been asking for attention for a while. Maybe the first act of relief is believing your own tiredness sooner, before collapse forces everybody else to take it seriously at long last. Before resentment starts speaking for you during ordinary family moments at home. Before numbness becomes the only way your body knows how to cope. The emotional load mothers carry is real because love keeps showing up. But love should not require disappearing from your own inner life completely. If this gave words to something you have been carrying quietly, share that below. And if you want more conversations about parenting pressure beneath the surface, subscribe. There is more to name here, and naming it is where healing begins.